Buckle up, get your bikinis and trunks on, because it's 10 most insane banned water slides that might give you one heck of a ride. But before that, click on the notification button and subscribe to our channel. Can there be anything more thrilling than the fun-filled water slides at a water park? Some are so hair-raising that they're quite like roller coaster rides, enough to make your stomach churn. On a hot day, zipping down a slide and crashing into water can be heavenly, but some water slides are just too dangerous. Rather than flying into water, people have been launched into the air instead. Check out these 10 insane water slides that have been banned. Think twice before visiting Calypso Water Park if you're living in Limoges, Ontario. This is one notorious water park that breaks a record for safety violations and fines with over 50 in 2015 alone. The main culprit was the steamer slide that was banned by authorities and eventually shut down by the park. The steamer slide was notorious for causing several accidents, the worst of which involved Sophie Saint-Jacques, a 50-year-old whose very first water slide ride landed her in the hospital with broken vertebrae. Since then, the park has seen a spree of accidents with over $500,000 in penalties and fines for safety violations. But it wasn't just the steamer that was breaking bones. The water park's bobsleigh too was just as deadly that left Marek Strelich unconscious and in hospital for 3 days. Marek was thrown off a raft and landed on the concrete below. Both slides have been shut down since. When the Verrückt water slide was inaugurated at the Schlitterbahn Kansas City Water Park in Kansas City, it was considered the world's tallest and scariest water slide. The slide at 168 feet was a daredevil ride that plummeted people on their backs with incredible speed, and you couldn't help but scream. Yes, it was that insane. What's even more insane, however, was the decision to operate the slide after test trials saw sandbags hurling down at speeds of 70 miles an hour and flying in the air. Now here was a slide that could well launch you into space instead. The slide was plagued with several issues after it opened in 2014, but one of the worst accidents in history of water slides ultimately forced authorities to shut it down. In 2016, 10-year-old Caleb Schwab was riding down the slide when his raft suddenly went airborne while ascending the second hill. It plummeted back down again and crashed into the metal support that decapitated the boy. Investigations revealed that there had been 13 accidents on the slide, which was promptly shut down. The Insano water slide in Sao Paulo, Brazil is the ultimate splashdown. When built in 1989, it became the world's tallest and the world's scariest slide because of its height that was as high as a 14-story building and at 41 meters. I would never take a water slide that towered over the tallest buildings in the area. That's just creepy. This hair-raising ride made people slide down so fast it took just 5 seconds at speeds of 65 miles an hour. The slide was also voted by the Guinness Book of World Records as the world's highest slide. But then again, accidents are bound to happen. This was a slide that attracted daredevils worldwide. But according to park workers, several people would just leave after climbing all the way up to the top when seeing the sheer horror that awaited them. Many, while sliding down, grown men included, were reported screaming and crying. Hell, who knows, many might have peed their pants too. The ride was stomach-churning to say the least, and not for the faint-hearted. A fun-filled family ride on a water slide raft can really beat the heat, but what happens when that ride turns out giving families time in hospital? Yes, the Aquasphere water slide of Peninsula Aquatic Recreation Centre in Frankston, Australia, is a great place where families can bond with each other, comparing injuries, or even sharing hospital rooms together. The water slide is notorious for having caused several accidents and has been shut down several times. The enclosed serpentine flume-type slide propelled riders at high speed through a number of twists and turns and then injecting them into a 5-meter sphere that spun them around 90-degree corners that seemed unending. It wasn't uncommon for riders to get their heads bashed together if distances weren't maintained. 2 adults especially suffered head trauma while one boy was battered so badly he was ejected out unconscious. The slide was ultimately torn down by the park authorities, who also suffered injuries when trying it out. Now that's ironic. The Sahara Sidewinders water slide of Kalahari Resort in Ohio ended up sidewinding people like corkscrews, it was so dangerous. In fact, the water slide came with restrictions allowing only people above 4 feet and below 300 pounds to ride the slide. Moreover, only those capable of being in a supine position could ride the flume-type water slide that caused several injuries and was soon shut down because the park just couldn't cope with the number of lawsuits against it. The indoor water slide was 60 feet high and dropped riders from a trapdoor chamber into one of 2 looping slides. When it was inaugurated, it was considered the only water looping slide in the country. People described the water slide as a death trap where one boy, especially from Michigan, was badly injured, resulting in the family suing the park. While the Sahara Sidewinders was shut down, the water park itself is now opening America's largest indoor water park in Round Rock, Texas. Would you even consider entering a park called Accident Park? Not me for sure. Especially when it involves the Action Park in Vernon, New Jersey, arguably America's most dangerous water park. The enclosed water slide called Cannonball Loop in this park left riders with nothing but bloody noses instead. It was more of a wheeled ride without brakes that shot down a concrete and fiberglass track. Opened in New Jersey in 1978, the park was considered one of the country's first modern water parks back in the day. But the park appeared jinxed and soon became known famous as Traction Park because of the spurt of injuries on its water slides and lifeguards having to rescue people from the giant waves of its freshwater pool every day. Most dangerous of all was the Cannonball Loop. According to urban legend, during a test run, park authorities sent down a dummy doll which came out the other end with no head. Still want to go to Action Park? The entire park was shut down in 1998 and rebuilt as Mountain Creek Water Park. Owners of Cedar Point in Ohio like to refer to themselves as the best water park in the country, but that's because they aren't speaking the truth entirely. What they don't want you to know is how bad the rep of their Shoot the Rapids river rafting simulation ride was when back in 2013, it shut down, leaving guests hanging upside down in water. 6 people were riding the park's most famous ride, which suddenly malfunctioned while it was negotiating the left hill. The boat almost capsized when it propelled backwards for 187 feet into the entry chute. The boat even hit another on the way and flipped over with riders all trapped upside down. Several people in the water at the time, including security, rushed to help free them. Fortunately, after evaluation, none suffered major injuries. The accident was enough to panic the authorities, who decided to shut down the ride in 2016. Befitting its name, the Black Hole Slide at Wet n Wild in Orlando was one heck of a bad ride, and indeed a black hole that you would never want to venture into. The ride should have been named Death Hole instead because of the injuries it caused to people. The black hole was 2 enclosed pitch-black spirals. Oh man, that's enough to trigger your imagination to how scary it must have been. The spirals were described as an adrenaline-pumping pitch-black spiral of darkness at speeds of up to 40 kilometers an hour. I'd say it was more of a pee-generating ride, which scared the hell out of many. In fact, the park was also made to pay up to $1.73 million to Wayne Dowling, who rode the slide in 1994, but was hit by something that paralyzed his legs when he came out. He later had to be fitted with a titanium plate in his neck because of the injuries. The Extreme Fossa water slide in Germany's Galaxy-Erding Tropical Sea and Water Park is one crazy ride that is 67 meters long and propels people to speeds of 45 miles an hour. It's one hair-raising ride and not for the faint of heart or those with medical conditions. While it's still up and running, it's also under a ban of sorts for women. Yes, the Extreme Fossa has been weirdly connected to accidents and injuries related to women in 2012 who had to be hospitalized with injuries to their private parts. How shocking is that? And that's also why the slide is off limits to women till authorities say they can invent a protective suit for females. Sorry gals, looks like it's only guys that can have all the fun here, unless of course you wear a ball guard and a fake mustache. When you speak of a water slide, you expect to be sliding down the smooth surface propelled by water, right? You don't expect to be pinched in your ass several times all the way down, do you? That's exactly what people riding the horrible Aqua Scoot in Action Park experienced. The Aqua Scoot had a bizarre design that moved over rollers just like the conveyor belt carrying your luggage in the airport. Now this was a real sadistic design because the metal rollers kept pinching the people's backsides, and by the time you reached the water, you might have a backside as red as a monkey's bum. There were also several injuries reported because of people getting hit by riders who would come flying off the slide at terrible force. This ultimately led to the ride being shut down.